The Social Security earnings limit is almost always based on your earnings for the year, an annual basis. But in a few cases, it could be your monthly earnings that are counted. Stay tuned and I'll tell you how to tell whether your income is limited by a monthly or an annual amount. Hey, I'm Devin. This is my YouTube channel where I try to simplify Social Security benefits so you can get every dollar in benefits that you deserve. If you're new here, be sure to subscribe and click that notifications bell so you'll see all the videos that we're getting ready to record and then release. So a few weeks back, I was going through my book doing updates for all the stuff that's changed, like the income limit and a few other clarifications where I thought I could have been more clear. It was originally published back in April, I think it was April of 2018, and since then, I haven't updated it. But that's all changed now. The 2020 version, you can see this right here, is now available on Amazon, and I'll put a link to that below. But I was going through the section on the earnings limit, and it occurred to me that on this channel, I've never properly covered how the earnings limit can be applied on a monthly basis. We mentioned it briefly in a video not long ago, but the monthly limit was created because the Social Security Administration recognized that some people who retire have already earned more than their yearly earnings limit, and it's not fair to make them wait until the next year to file for benefits if they're truly retired. For example, if you earned $100,000 from January until your retirement in July, and then filed for benefits, you'd be eligible to receive those even though you were clearly well in excess of the annual test. This is where the monthly limit could come in to give you some relief. And just so you know, you may hear me refer to this as the income limit, the earnings limit, or the earnings test, but they all mean the same thing. So in today's video, I'm going to cover some of the basics of this monthly earnings limit, and be sure to stay to the end of this video because I'm going to answer some of the most commonly asked questions about this too. Now, if you've never watched my video on the earnings limit, you need to check that out. That's where we cover the broad earnings limit rules as they apply to most people, which is where an annual limit is what's counted. In that video, I'll answer a lot of common questions about the earnings limit. That these questions are applicable to both the monthly and the annual amount. And at the end of this video, I'm going to have a direct link on the screen to that video so you can cue that up and watch it next. But for context and background, I'd like to cover the basics of the income limit, and then I think the discussion on the monthly limit is going to make a little more sense. The first thing to know is that the earnings limit only applies if you are under full retirement age. And once you reach your full retirement age, you can earn an unlimited amount of money and continue to receive your full Social Security benefit. Now, right now, your full retirement age is in a period of transition for individuals who are close to retirement. So it's important that you know exactly when you are going to reach your full retirement age. And here's an easy way to know. If you were born between 1943 and 1954, your full retirement age is 66. For 1955 through 59, it increases by 2 months per year. So for 1955, it's 66 and 2 months. For 1956, it's 66 and 4 months, and so on. And for those born in 1960 or later, the full retirement age is set at age 67. So it's not the last time you'll hear me say this, but at your full retirement age, the earnings limit does not apply. But if you're under full retirement age, it does. Now, in 2020, if you make more than $18,240, the Social Security Administration will withhold $1 in benefits for every $2 that you exceed that limit. That one exception is the year you attain full retirement age. Now, that's the calendar year. So if your birth date is in July, beginning in January, the earnings limit nearly triples to $48,600. And the withholding amount is not as steep either. For every $3 over the limit, they'll withhold $1 in benefits. And again, at your full retirement age, there's no income limit. Now, this is the number for 2020. It's important to note, though, that the dollar amount of this limit will increase on an annual basis, and you need to keep up with the year-to-year changes. If you want to make it easy, just subscribe to my channel because we do an update for these numbers every year as they are announced. The last thing you need to know about the broad income limit, which will apply to both the annual and monthly limit, is what counts as income. And thankfully, they make it pretty easy to understand for most types of income that's normally received. First, there's the income that does not count. That's pension payments, most annuity payments, IRA and retirement account distributions, dividends, interest income, capital gains. The income that does count is earnings from self-employment, and that's net earnings from self-employment, and gross wages from being a W-2 employee. And also remember, for self-employed individuals, there's some additional rules on the amount of time you spend in your business. So if you're a self-employed person, know it's not just a dollar amount. So this nice little concise list that we just talked about would take care of probably 90% of most of the types of income that exist out there. But there are a lot of other types of income that can cause some confusion. And I cover those in a video I did on the Social Security income limit, what counts as income. I'll be sure and put a link to that in the description below. So that's the basics of how the income limit works. Let's talk about the monthly limit and how it's a little different. To do this in the most understandable format, let's address the monthly limit in 3 separate questions. First, how do you know when the monthly limit is applied versus the annual limit? Second, how much is the monthly limit? And tell you how to calculate that on an annual basis. And last, this is a little bit confusing, but very important to know this one. What if your monthly earnings are more than the monthly limit, but you haven't yet exceeded the total annual limit? Which limit wins? I get that question all the time. So, how do you know if you're covered by the monthly or annual limit? Well, the Social Security Administration says very clearly in their obscure sort of way, the monthly earning test applies when an entitled beneficiary has 1 or more non-service months in a grace year. Now, let's break that down into something that makes a little bit more sense. Here's what they mean. In the first calendar year you're receiving Social Security benefits, and you have a month of earnings that's less, that could be all the way down to 0, of the monthly earnings limit amount, the income limit turns into the monthly income test. Now, it runs for the remainder of that calendar year, and after that, it's back to the annual test. Generally, this is the first year that you retire and file for Social Security benefits. How much is the monthly limit? Well, your monthly limit amount is simply the applicable annual amount divided by 12. So if you're subject to the monthly limit in 2020, the maximum monthly earnings amount would be $1,520, unless you were in the year where you attained full retirement age, where it would be $4,050. It's very simple. The monthly limit is simply 1/12 of the annual limit. Now, what if your monthly earnings are more than the monthly limit, but your total annual earnings are less than your annual limit? Which limit wins here? And let me tell you, this is a question that took me a while to find the answer to. I had to go deep into my network of resources to be able to find the reference in the rules that finally gave me the answer I needed. Here's an example of the problem. Assume you retire and file for Social Security at the 1st of January. Now, this would trigger the monthly earnings test since you have a month of earnings that's less than the monthly amount and you are entitled to benefits. But then in March, you get a phone call and someone wants you to do some consulting work and they're going to pay you $10,000. Here's the problem. Your earnings, even with that $10,000, won't exceed the annual limit, but for that pay in the month of March, it's certainly going to exceed the monthly limit. So which limit wins? Well, the way the rules are written, you cannot exceed the income test unless you first exceed the annual amount. So in this case, you would not have exceeded the earnings limit. So that covers the monthly earnings limit from a very high level, but if you can think of other questions that I left out here, be sure and post them in the comments below, and be sure to check out my newly revised book on Amazon too, Social Security Basics. You'll be able to find it. It's easy to find. It's one of the top selling Social Security books. It's now up to date, has a lot of great content to help you better understand what can be a pretty confusing topic. Also, if you haven't already, be sure to check out my Facebook group. Just look for Social Security Intelligence in the Facebook search bar, or I'll put a link to it below. There are a lot of answers being given there about Social Security, and even I jump in from time to time. Well, thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.